Welcome back, everyone, to the Money Making Mama Show. My name is Nancy Wallace-Lobbs,
And I am Kelcie Leka.
and we're excited to have you here. So normally Kelcie and I start off by talking about what we've been doing or whatever, but we have something really exciting that we're going to be doing today. Kelcie, what are we doing today?
Okay, so today is February 17th, right? So the new Netflix documentary of America's Next Top Model came out yesterday, and I am amped for it. And so we grew up, well, I grew up, but we watched America's Next Top Model like religiously, all growing up. And I feel like that's the one show I remember. And so I'm really excited to watch the documentary. So after this podcast, we're gonna have a little mother-daughter day before I
Yeah.
get the kids and
Yep.
watch that and have a lunch. And
So we planned the podcast around so that we'd record, we talk about, real estate investing.
And, it's funny because in the last episode, we talked about, every day, just kind of like it's nice that we are not on this corporate world and like we're not in this 9 to 5 because we'd have to plan on Saturday and Sunday to do this, but it's Tuesday afternoon and it's all about like creating new memories and experiences every day to make it kind of seem a little bit longer. So this is nice that we get to do this.
I know, I'm excited. And we
Mhm.
get to spend time together as mother-daughter. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we don't just invest in real estate together. We also watch.
America's Top Model. And
Yeah.
we have a few little things that we like to do together. I'm going to talk about something that was fun that we did do when we talked about our new branding photo shoot that we did back in January. And what was fun was, what are we going to wear?
Yeah.
And we went shopping together and we
Mhm.
hadn't done that for a real, probably since you've had your kids. So
It's
that,
also just so weird to go shopping in stores now.
yes, that's true. But
And
we
it's
had a good time.
exhausting.
Like,
No, we did. It was nice spending time together.
yeah.
Just the actual act of
And then we
shopping.
kept going, "Well, what about this?" So we thought we came up with some real so you'll have to look at our pictures to see if we did a good job on the shopping situation because we
Mhm.
thought we did. So,
Mhm.
well, today I thought we kinda go last time we talked about the compound effect of waiting not to invest in real estate and how much it really costs you,
Mhm.
and we said, like, one rental house that was, like, $300,000. If you missed that, go back and watch episode 20. And we actually put the little formula in there that we did that, and I have more talking points today because I have more statistics I wanna throw out there, but about, one of the things Kelcie asked me is why'd I pick single family, right?
Mhm.
And,
Yeah.
so let's
And I
talk
know,
about
like, also too, like, we have friends that I think one of them, she just focuses on, like, apartments and condos and, why not? Yeah, just and so I think that's always been just a thing of, like, why single family? But go ahead, I'll let you explain because you picked it first, not me.
Well, I think I did it because the mentor I had told me about it. And then over the years, I've looked at multifamily and we've done a few flips, not a ton. It's not really my favorite kind of investing strategy. It takes a lot of work, I think. And then with rentals, like if you look at, well, I'll give one big clue why I never wanted to go into multifamily as having the property management background because the tenants.
Yeah.
So if you have tenants that live in a big building and one tenant doesn't like the other tenant or one tenant, let's just say has a lot of bugs, because we've all lived in apartment complexes
Yeah.
before where we have that one, two, maybe more where they have bugs and,
Yeah.
you can spray your apartment, but if your neighbor,
Can I just tell my horrifying story?
yeah,
Okay, so when me and Zach lived in our first apartment together, we lived in, I mean, they were like nice, but they weren't like, fancy. But we lived on like this downtown square area. And shockingly, for having a restaurant not directly below us, but kind of attached to the building, we didn't have a crazy amount of bugs or roaches, I should say. But then they started adding on to, and they built a whole new complex like, literally, like, just across the street, and we had so much roaches, and we had it come and, we're fairly clean, and I would hope that looking at me, it's like, "Oh, you're not a roach person." You know what I mean? And so, anyways, I've seen roaches in, like, the bathrooms and the kitchens, like, that's the places it makes sense. Well, we were laying in bed, and I was watching TV, and I was on my stomach, like, facing whatever, and I was wearing shorts, and all of a sudden, I just feel something on the back of my leg, and a roach had landed on the back of my leg, and I jumped up so fast, took care of the roach situation, but then I think it was, like, 11:30 at night, and I, like, raged emailed the apartment complex. I was like, "Break my lease now," or, like, because we were done. We were like, "Absolutely not," and then that's when we went to go look at our first house together.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna tell well, when I lived in an apartment, I remember one of the apartment complexes I lived in Phoenix. Oh my gosh, you would take the dog out at night and you just couldn't wear sandals. I mean, it was just
Ew.
so
But I
disgusting.
remember Phoenix has a lot of crickets.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, crickets, and so anyway, back to why we decided to go into a single family home. Not that you can't roaches there, because one time I rented a duplex. It was a
Yeah.
temporary situation, and here's a tip. If you see dead roaches in the closet or, in the corners or whatever, I can guarantee you there's gonna be live roaches.
Yeah.
So don't ever do that. Anyway, yes. So
That's why we do single
so
family.
single family has to do a lot with that, but it's also easier to get loans for it
Yeah.
because appraisers understand it,
Yeah.
tenants understand it.
And I
It's
just feel like that's what I mean, just from a generic, like, looking outward, not even based on statistics, majority of people want a single family home.
Yeah, because they wanna feel like homeownership,
Yes.
right? Maybe they don't, for whatever reason, can't buy their own first home, but most people do rent a home, and if they have a family, they want it to be in a residential neighborhood, so
Mhm.
it makes a lot of sense. Anyway, and for us, it was just easier to get into uh, single family homes, plus all the research that I did. So again, I have talking points, but a lot of millionaires built their wealth on single family homes.
Mhm.
And then once you have that, then you can go into other things. But we're going to talk about single family rentals. And that's why we did it, was
Yeah.
because it's easy to get into. It's very predictable income. You can get loans for, like, depending on the type of loan you can get, but you can get a loan for up to 30 years and you can have a fixed rate. So
Yeah.
you know what your costs are going to be. Generally, I mean, sometimes insurance does change, but the fixed mortgage, you can have fixed mortgage on it. So when you get rent, so it's all fixed, and then you can pay down that principal. So you can look at cash flow, and then that type of asset will almost always, we call it asset, but I'm talking about single family homes,
Mhm.
will appreciate more than an apartment complex.
Mm.
Because
I
the
believe
apartment
that.
complex, I mean, think about it, especially a large one. It's going to be dependent on, if you build an apartment complex, depending, and first of all, it takes a lot of cash
Yeah.
to invest. Usually you have to have a minimum of $50,000, and
Mm.
usually it's 100. And if you want to own it outright, you're talking about millions of dollars,
Yeah.
right? So you just have to have a lot of money to
I
do.
think also too, the point that it doesn't necessarily have to do with money, but the amount of tenants that go through apartment complexes and how much you have to, like, just kind of do that process over and over and over again. Whereas if you just have a single family, if they live there for 2 years, or, you had the family that lived there for 11 years and they were really good and all that. So I think also too, that's a huge factor outside of money, that if you don't want to constantly be doing that process, then single family might be
Yes,
better for
that is
you.
actually a really good point, because in apartment complexes, yeah, you just multiply the number of people, they're gonna be breaking their leases because there's
Yeah.
bugs, right?
Yeah, roaches landing on
And
and just to clarify, nothing to that apartment complex, it's because they were building, like, so those roaches had to go somewhere, but,
yeah,
not on my lake.
right.
But, yeah, I think just doing that process, that would stress me out,
Yeah,
personally.
yeah, and from a management, so if you're okay, so we're talking to people that are looking at leaving the corporate job, but not
Yeah.
right away.
Yeah.
So one single family home is very easy to manage.
Yes.
It's about getting the right tenant in there, property management. Nancy, hey, we can give you some tips and tricks about how to get the right tenant into your property, because you can I just did a lunch and learn about this, where you can get the best property, but if you don't get the right tenant, so that'll be another podcast talk. So yeah, so let me just kind of give you a little statistics about rentals in the United States,
Yep,
right?
let's do it.
So I did remember this one because I was like, dang. So one of the things I researched was how many rentals are owned by individuals. We call them mom and pops, but we mean like people like me, like Kelcie, like your regular person, not a hedge fund, not a big corporation. And so it was like a staggering number. I mean, it was like between 70 and 75% of all the rentals in the United States are owned by individual people.
That's awesome.
Right? Yeah, so it's really, so that only leaves about 30% that are owned by like a company like BlackRock or something like
Right.
that,
Right,
right?
right.
Yeah, but then what was even more interesting of that, let's just call it 70%
Mhm.
conservatively. Okay, of that 70%, so of the Nancy's and the Kelcies and the, everyone else, 89% only own 5 or less properties.
Oh,
So they
wow.
don't own like 10 and 50, so even if you just have 1 or 2.
Mhm.
Remember I said if you have 1, that's the key that starts unlocking the
Mhm.
ability to leave, your corporate job. Not right away, not gonna leave your job right away, but, it's that first step
Mhm.
to leaving it.
Mm.
So that's was really amazing is, like, a lot of people think, "Oh, I just can't do this," or whatever, but when you think about it, you can do it,
Yes.
because it's only 1.
Yes.
And then managing that. So for someone who has a corporate job and let's say they love their corporate job and they want to stay there,
Yeah.
but they want to add to their retirement, they want to add to their bottom line or just, have a an appreciating asset. Another reason that we decided to do the single family only is it's just more stable. So like when you do a flip, it's like, you got to can renovate a single family home,
Mm.
but it just seems more easier because one, if you're not selling it, you don't have to do all the high end stuff when you're
Right.
flipping, right? So you can actually save money because you're doing it for the rental market versus the for sale market,
Right.
right? So that's really good. There's like tenant renovations, right?
Mhm.
And I think I like it because when you go to a lender, they understand that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to get the money and the insurance, it's easier because when you do flips, you have to have a certain kind of insurance or whatever. And rentals follow the market cycle. Right? Also, you were talking about long-term tenants. Yes, if you are buying properties like in school districts, you kinda look at the things that everybody looks at, like you wanna avoid high crime areas,
Mhm.
you wanna avoid or get good school districts,
Mhm.
transportation, is it close to grocery stores, and then that way when you're researching, for your rental, you can look at, like, how long does it take to rent it,
Right.
right? Because in some areas we would have people calling us when as soon as we put the sign in the yard, we weren't even done. So,
Right.
and just the fact that you can get that money like right up front, and it
Mhm.
helps offset your costs right away.
Right.
So I like that. Plus, it just seems like, then appraisers when they're going into a neighborhood or whatever, everybody just understands a rental.
Yes.
I think that makes them very appealing. And then I talked a little bit about, getting the fixed rate, but the other thing you can do with single family that's much easier to do is you can refinance them.
Yeah.
So when the interest rates do change, or if you've gotten some equity, which usually just takes like 2 or 3 years,
Mm.
you can do what we call a cash out refi. And you can get, so if you want to know how do you get more properties, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
So I just think it's a really good investment. It's manageable. They're usually very easy to find, and getting the financing is usually pretty simple too.
And I think also too, if you already own a home, you already know kind of just like what maybe breaks down, you just know things about houses. So it's not like, whereas like if you, I've only lived in an apartment twice in my life. And so I would know nothing about maintaining it or the ins and outs and like basic things. You know what I mean? Whereas a house, I've lived in a lot of houses. So I know more about that
Mhm.
to own my own house, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly, and just while you're talking about that, house hacking,
Yeah.
you can get into owning a single family home by just you already purchased one, you're
And
like,
that's what
"Oh."
we did. That's how we started.
Yep,
Mhm.
so I just think that, as we're focusing on helping people get into the single family, investing is really that I keep saying it, but it's that key to moving away from your corporate job, so just like
Right.
how you did. Yeah, so we're gonna put all the information down. Now we do have a free masterclass. You can go check it out about, rental homes and things like that. Kelsey, what else did I cover everything about why we invest? I think I was pretty convincing, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I was convincing for you.
Yes, that's true. I think, I think I've gotten the question of why, like, I have not been investing long, but I think people have even asked me, "Well, why wouldn't you do like commercial real estate investing or other things?" And I just think those are beasts. Whereas I
They're
think
what? Beast.
beast, like a big beast
Yeah.
to handle, you know what I mean? And that's probably gonna sound weird, but whatever.
Well, no, but you're right because they take more money,
Yeah.
more time, more
And I
more
just think that it's just not as dependable. Like, if you're gonna take the risk, okay, so I already think real estate investing, yes, there is a risk to it, just like anything that with money, there's a risk. But I think that if you are someone that's kind of like hesitant, or like I'm very, like I was like, oh, I'm not gonna go out and spend 150,000 just like that. You know what I mean? Or I'm not gonna put another mortgage to my name. Like that was terrifying to me. But after doing the numbers, after looking at what are my goals, I'm wanting to get out of the corporate world, after doing that, why wouldn't I take the least amount of risk in the risky real estate investing? Does that make
Yes.
sense?
Yeah, I think so because I think what I'm gonna paraphrase.
Yes.
Okay, so single family investing is less risky than commercial,
Yes.
is less risky
Then
than multifamily,
multifamily.
and if you do your research and you buy in the right area and stick to kinda like the 3-bedroom, 2-bath kinda model, you rarely go wrong, right?
Yes.
Now, let's just say you don't buy it right because you do make your money when you buy it right.
Yeah.
If you have bought in an appreciating area, which we just said
Yeah.
that real estate will appreciate over time, I'm not gonna say you can never make a mistake, but it's minimal, I
Yes.
guess.
And also too, like I want to make a comment on we talked about this a long time ago, but basically how to like where to put your money when you're, if you're wanting to sell your house, what you should be fixing up, what's going to look appealing to others. We did an episode about this like a long, long time ago. In my mind, it's a long time ago, but it's only probably a couple episodes back. But I think for me, again, I go back to I have owned several houses, so I know what I like and I know what kind of just, I like more of the open concept. And whenever we would walk into a house and it's got a funky layout, like that gave me a perspective of probably like, okay, this has been sitting on the market for a little while. Like, so that gave me a perspective of what majority of people like. And so I think for as an investor, that was helpful going and looking at investment properties of, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't decorate with hot pink magenta in this room. And because majority of people are not going to like that. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? So I think it's also too just single family is a little bit easier to get if you're wanting to get into real estate investing. There's so many ways to do that, but I think single family is a good way to do it because majority of people already own their home. And so it's just you're just getting another home if you
Mhm.
look at it that way.
Yes, or I always like to think of it that's very good, and I like to think of it as that you're providing someone a home.
Yes, that too.
That's how I always looked at my rentals is like, okay, would I raise my family here? Would I, that kind of thing. So I think that's a really good note to land on,
Yeah,
Kelsey.
I think
Yeah,
so
thank
too.
you. So, all right. So just to recap, single family home, all real estate investing can be risky, but it's how you manage your risk. Right. And single family is a way, again, we said you only need one to start that move from your corporate job to, living the life we all want.
Mhm.
Alrighty. So, well, next time,
Next
talk to you
time,
later. And hey, we're getting ready to go,
watch
watch
some America's
America's
Next
Top
Top
Model.
Model.
We're going to do a shout out to Tyra. Should we tag her?
No, we should not because she's gotten a lot of flack.
Okay.
I'm not saying anything until I watch this documentary
Oh,
because
okay.
I
All
don't
right.
think
So,
it's the
okay.
most positive light.
Okay. So we might not be. Okay.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Okay. So just so you know, we're in the know about it. So,
Yeah. All right.
all
See you
right.
next time.
All right. Love you.
Love you. Bye.